Well, again, we're so happy to be here. I believe this is our third trip to a collaborative meeting breakout session, and we're really happy to be back. As we've said, we're basically just presenting today a little overview of who we are and some updates on some work that we've been doing to improve access to information about what it is that we do. So we'll just start with a quick reminder about who we are and what we do as the Trustee Council. And then I'm gonna hand it over to Jen and Damon to walk us through some updates to our website, a virtual tour, and some updates to the administrative record for the project. We have received comments and questions from the public over the years with a lot of interest in the ecological restoration projects at Portland Harbor. And we've also requested that feedback from the public and from the CAG, for example, about what topics would be of interest to the public. So some of the features we're going to share today and the items are really some of the steps that we've taken to be responsive to that feedback. So hopefully these will be helpful to you all. So just a quick reminder for those who maybe are less familiar with the Trustee Council. The Trustee Council was formed in 2002 to conduct the natural resource damage assessment at Portland Harbor. I'll talk about that a little bit more. There are 5 tribal trustees, as well as federal and state wildlife agencies that are also trustees. And I always like to point out that the Yakama Nation is also a natural resource trustee at Portland Harbor, but chooses not to participate in the Trustee Council. So I think I went too far. No. So this is another piece that we want to really help reiterate is just the difference of what the Trustee Council does as compared to EPA and DEQ's role at Portland Harbor. EPA and DEQ are overseeing and leading the cleanup of the Portland Harbor and the sediments and contaminants. That cleanup is obviously critically important. You wouldn't be here tonight if you didn't think so, but it doesn't cover everything. It doesn't restore the natural resources or compensate the public for the loss of those services that the natural resources provide due to all of that contamination. So the Trustee Council's work is to assess and restore those lost natural resources and their services in Portland Harbor. It's essentially complementary to the work that DEQ and EPA are doing. So this is just an overview of what our work is. We are assessing what the injury has been from contamination. We look at natural resources like salmon, bald eagle, and mink, lamprey, other important natural resources. And then we look at those services again that are related to those natural resources. So like recreation and clean water and cultural resources that go along with those natural resources. And we evaluate the injury that has occurred and then work to restore what those lost resources have been. So we look in kind of 3 categories. We're looking at ecological resources, tribal resources, and recreational resources. And then also just keeping in mind that just as you know, under CERCLA, this is a polluter pays statute. And so we're seeking compensation from the parties that are responsible for that contamination to restore those natural resources. A lot of work has already been done to restore the lost ecological resources. And so although those projects, those ecological projects that have been underway are not the trustees, not owned by the trustees, or not developed by the trustees, we recognize that we could do more to share information about those projects, both the projects themselves and our oversight role on those projects. So to that end, we have been working to improve access to information about the projects, and we are excited to share some of that with you today. So we're going to go through today some updates to our website. We have some new features that describe restoration more broadly, including tribal and recreation restoration, some more information about the 4 ecological restoration projects, and some more visuals and just helpful links to information that might be useful to the public. We're also going to share a virtual tour that Damon has been working on. We wanted to find a way to give a look at the sites to folks, even though there are limitations in public access. In particular, while these newly planted plants are growing and earth has been moved, while we're letting these sites kind of establish themselves, we really can't have public access on them. And so the virtual tour we're hoping is a way to help get folks feel connected to some of these sites. And then we also have added documents to our administrative record. It's maybe not quite as exciting as the virtual tour, but it's a really important tool and place where the public can access information about the work that the Trustee Council does. So we're continuing to make improvements to that, but we wanted to share some of that today. So with that, I will hand it over to Jen to walk us through some of the website updates.
Thank you, Courtney. And I will start sharing my screen in just 1 minute here.
And while you're doing that, Jen, I just want to remind folks that if you have questions for our presenters, you can go ahead and enter them into the chat and we can address them after the presentation is finished. Or feel free to wait until the presentation is finished and ask your questions verbally at that time.
Thank you, Anna. And in case anyone has joined since I did my first introduction, I'll just introduce myself again. I'm Jennifer Hughes with Parametrics, a consulting firm that's been working with the Portland Harbor Natural Resource Trustee Council for about 11 or 12 years now as the case administrator with the group. And 2 of my responsibilities have included working on the public website and also the administrative record, or those are 2 topics I'll cover. And the first one is updates to our website. Our website is housed on the Fish and Wildlife Services server. So the address is fws.gov/Portland Harbor. And I'd invite you to follow along on your own screen if you'd like to navigate around it while I'm going through this. And since some of you may not have visited the website before, I thought I'd kind of just walk you through the structure of where the information is and then highlight the things that are new that we've recently added specific to restoration information. So here we are at the homepage, and this site kind of gives these great images related to the main sections of the page. So we have cooperative process, the site overview, and damage assessment, restoration, and then it goes back to cooperative process again. So you can access that information here as well as using the menu at the top. Here we give an introduction to what natural resources at Portland Harbor are and why we care about them, and then a little bit about what you can expect to find throughout this website. And then we also highlight the 4 most recent news stories that we've posted to the site, and then have a couple of key, popular, or important resources, including the project timeline for damage assessment, where we're talking about with a restoration map, and then a fact sheet about why are we restoring in Portland Harbor. So that's currently what's on the homepage. And then we go to the first subpage here, which is the About Us page, and my internet isn't going anywhere. Here, I'll jump back. That's really interesting. Oh, it's just spinning. Give us a moment. And sorry about that. It looks like it's thinking there. Of course, this happens after we've tested it and everything has worked fine. Let me just try to refresh and see if it can get back there. Could be because I had the site up and waiting for a little bit before we got here. I'm going to stop sharing and I will close the site and go back to it. That might be the best approach.
These things always tend to happen at the worst possible time.
I know.
Sorry, Jen.
It's okay. We'll deal with it.
We will deal with it. It's true. While we're troubleshooting, Damon, I don't know if you have the video queued up and ready to go, but perhaps we could just pivot and view the video while we get the site back up. Does that work?
I do, yes. If needed, I can jump in.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but I've tried other sites and it's working, and I can't get back to our website. So it's not my internet service. And maybe Damon, if you try, I can do the walkthrough with you accessing it after you show the video. Let's try that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and pivot, and I'll just say, like Courtney mentioned, we wanted to find a way to kind of share a little bit more about these projects since they are not accessible to the public at currently, or they're owned by third-party developers, and just show some of the highlights. So we worked with some of the project developers, neighbors, stakeholders, to collect some photos and video and drone footage and put together this short virtual tour that highlights some of the restoration that's been going on. And we hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And let me make sure I get the right screen here. Okay. And can you tell me if you're seeing the kind of landing page for the video?
I see the first screen.
Okay, we'll start it now. Right.
Thank you, Damon. That was really great. I always enjoy seeing that video. All right, just checking back in with Jen. How are we doing on that website?
There's some sort of gremlins in the system. I apologize. It's possible that Fish and Wildlife Service is doing some sort of maintenance right now during our meeting. Unfortunately, I checked with Courtney too, and she also couldn't get to it,
Yeah.
which is really unfortunate because I was in there, half an hour before this meeting started. So I apologize. And what we can do is go through the administrative record updates and then maybe try again when I'm done with that portion, if that sounds good.
I think that sounds great, Jen, and I will drop the link to that webpage that we were going to go over in the chat and just encourage folks to check it out on their own time if we're not able to get in tonight.
Sure. And I can also talk through a little bit of the structure of where they can find the new information too. It's just not quite as much fun without the actual site. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and move to the admin record discussion. So let's go ahead and do it this way. Okay, so if we had gone through the tour of the site, I would have shown you where you can, under the library menu item, find a link to the public administrative record for Portland Harbor Natural Resource Damage Assessment. You can also navigate to it through NOAA's website itself. And this has been available publicly probably for over a year and a half or so. And what I want to do is just kind of walk through what you can find here and talk a little bit about what is new and how you can navigate within the system. So overall, this is the Trustee Council's administrative record documents that the Trustee Council has relied upon to make decisions or considered when making decisions within the NRDA Natural Resource Damage Assessment process. We're continually adding documents to the admin record, and the index of how it's structured evolves over time. And we've tried to organize it in a way that it's easy to find information, but it's a fairly large database of information that we've been building since 2002 or so. Some of the records go back to about 2002. There are a couple different ways you can move through it. One of them is by entering a search item here, and it will search and find documents that have that in the title or in some of the other characterizations of the records. You can also sort by date, beginning dates, ending dates, if you're interested more in a time period within the record. And I'll just do a search on Alder Creek, which is one of the restoration sites, just to give you a glimpse of what might come up. So there's 3 pages of records related to Alder Creek, and it ranges from resolutions, the Trustee Council resolutions related to funding information for Alder Creek or information directly from Alder Creek when we were going through the process of identifying potential restoration sites, and then also monitoring reports from the project itself as it's moved forward. So that's just one way that you can find information. And the other way is to click on these expandable plus buttons here on the topics that you're interested in and kind of just look around within it to see what do we have posted. So here are just links and documents about laws and regulations related to NRDA. And what we've done in relation to what Courtney was mentioning in her presentation as a way to be responsive to some of the comments that the Trustee Council has heard over time about wanting more transparency around the restoration planning effort and the restoration sites themselves. You can go into restoration planning here and look back at some of the older information that's there. You can look at how we did some identification of the projects that we've used over time or projects that were posed and didn't move forward. Then under restoration selection, you would find sites that were from third-party restoration site developers, sites that were related to potentially responsible parties. And that's where I'm going to focus, is on those 2, because the 4 active restoration sites, the information is found here. So we have Alder Creek, Linton, and Reinerson, and those are active restoration sites. And then under PRP sites, we have PGE restoration. And let's click on Alder Creek as an example. We have lots of information in here now about what's been done at the site. There are as-built drawings and figures. Some of the information about monitoring reports can be found in here. Feedback from the Trustee Council on the monitoring reports, so the public can really see the process that's gone back and forth between the restoration developers and the trustee council, and how that interaction has worked within the amount of review that we've put into what's happened at the sites. And you can also find, let's see, I wanted to, there, it's in here, their habitat development plan. So it gives you all of the information about what the site is supposed to do. And Linton has a little bit less because it's not been around quite as long as Alder Creek, but we're adding documents all the time. And Reinerson as well. So habitat development plan, baseline monitoring reports, later monitoring reports, and a lot of really good information about each of those sites, as well as the PGE Harborton site. Excuse me. So these are great resources, things that we've added additional information to. And I also wanted to mention that might seem a little bit like this isn't the easiest way to find this information, to look under third-party or PRP sites. So I wanted to let you know that we're currently going through a process to do a little bit of reorganization about how you can find the restoration information. Probably in the next couple of months, we'll be able to make a little bit of an organizational change here. So there'll be a restoration planning title as it is right now, and then right under that a restoration implementation title, and that's where you'll find all of the current information from the 4 sites that have been actually constructed and moved forward. So that's an overview of what is in the administrative record, how you can navigate around in it, and the stuff that we've added recently related to restoration. And I think that was about all I was hoping to cover on that. So I'm going to click on the website again, just crossing my fingers to see if it's woken back up.
I tried also, and it's not working.
It
And I
doesn't
think
look like it.
U.S. Fish and Wildlife just in general is down. So
Oh, well, thanks for checking on that higher level, Damon. I appreciate that. So I'm not sure how helpful it is to talk about what's there, except to say there was previously one sort of landing page for restoration planning on the website, and we've expanded it so that there's information about the planning process for restoration, and also the different components to restoration, including an ecological restoration page, recreational and river access recreation page, and a tribal related restoration page. And within the ecological restoration page, we go into each of those 4 active project sites, restoration bank sites, and provide some photographs of each of them, a little overview of what was accomplished at each one, and then links to their monitoring plan documents or monitoring report documents. Sorry, we can't show it tonight. So
Thank you, Jen.
yeah.
And just to note for folks, I did copy the link to that webpage in the chat. Feel free to just copy it down and check it out later. Really encourage you to explore that. And then Jen, if I could trouble you to share the link to the NOAA Diver page in the chat as well, so folks
Sure.
can access that after the meeting. And then feel free to reach out with any questions. I believe that concludes our presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then we will open it up for questions and comments.